All right, part 3. Now, Anthony and I showed up at the Rock and Roll Marathon. We had rented a hotel. The night before, we were excited. We got down to the starting line, and we didn't have a time, goal. I still had the same goal that I had had before, which was not to walk. That was my goal. Just get through this thing without walking. And we started farther back, because they have like all these, there was thousands of people, and they have, okay, if you're going to run the 2.5 hour marathon, you line up here. And if you're running the 3-hour marathon, you line up here. Well, we were, back in the 4s or something like that. I don't really remember. And, the crowd was around us, and we were all pumped. We were excited. And, the marathon started, and we were just, grouped together. And if you've never run in a marathon where there's thousands of people, and for those of you who have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's weird. At first, you're like sheep. You're like running like this, and everyone's right there with you, and you're running. And then for the first mile, it's like, whoa, you got to watch out for that guy's foot and her foot, and then there's some guy squeezing past you, and this girl's running a little faster, and then you got to go around and bob and weave because it's so tightly packed. Well, about mile 2, everything starts to open up, and mile 3, there's room around you where you don't have to worry about tripping over anyone's feet, which is nice, but it's an interesting and fun experience, which I recommend for anyone to try. So we got into the marathon, and and the Rock and Roll Marathon, this was the second one, I believe it was the second one in San Diego, and so they didn't have everything set out just right, and we're running, and we got to the halfway point, and we checked the time, and we're like, yeah, we're doing pretty well. We were running about 7:30, 7:45, something like that. I don't really quite remember. And so, and they had these bands spaced out along the way, and they had a number in front of each band so that you would know which number it was. So you're like, okay, it's band, just past the 18th band. And so we get to I don't know what mile marker it was, but we see 24. And we're like, we only got 2 miles to go. Yeah, Anthony, 2 miles. He's like, yeah. And then about, a half mile later, we see there's a mile marker that said 22. And we're like, oh God, we got 4 more miles to go. And for those of you that have run a marathon, that's a huge difference between mile 22 and mile 24. So it was a bit disheartening. And when we hit the mile 24 marker, I couldn't feel my left foot. And I said, Anthony, I can't feel my left foot. And he looked at me, he goes, well, that's a good thing. Imagine if it was in pain. And I laughed. I said, you know what, you're right. I can't feel it. So we ended up, cruising, and we ended up finishing together. And I felt a lot better. Everyone says when they finish their first marathon, they're like, oh my God, I felt so amazing. It was a wonderful experience. Well, my first marathon was fucking hell, and I hated it. And I can't believe that I convinced myself to do another one. Well, I got that wonderful feeling after the second one. It's because I properly trained, and I put in the distance, and the things that needed to be done, I was doing them. And so, I got that feeling of, oh man, I can't believe what I did. And here's what I did. The first marathon that I ran, with no help and no proper training, I ran it in about 4 hours and 28 minutes, somewhere right around there. And within 2 months, I ran another marathon with my buddy, and I ran that one in 3 hours and 23 minutes. So I improved by over an hour because I had good training, and I had cross training, and I had support. So all those things are very key to running a marathon. And if you do those things, you know, cross training, you do, and you know, proper training, and you do, you know, you have support, it's going to make your first marathon a wonderful experience. And that's really what I would like to see happen for you. I wish it would have happened for me my first time, but you know, it didn't. And I pretty much got what I deserved. And, you know, I'm happy that somehow I'm just stupid enough to like stick it out and try it again. And the difference between the two was night and day. So keep that in mind. Find somewhere to get some proper training, and you're going to make your marathon experience amazing. All right, with that, I'll see you next time.